This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. And now your special guest host, Anthony Germain.
Good morning and happy Friday, the very first day of August. Delighted to have made it to the end of the week filling in here on Open Line. It's been a great brain challenge and I have to say a lot of fun too. Certainly want to thank Dave Williams, the producer of the show, for showing me all the right dance moves in Patty's absence as well. I want to thank Russell and Jerry Lynn and Sarah for making me feel very welcome here at VOCM. And of course, need to thank those of you who phoned in on such a wide variety of topics this week. Please keep calling. And finally, to you, the listener, even if you didn't call in, you're the ones who make Open Line a big part of your day, and you make the show such a success. I am Anthony Germain, filling in for Patty for one more day. So let's just get right into this. A few things I want to raise. Donald Trump hitting us with much more severe tariffs than he decided to whack the Europeans with. That's one thing. Also, looking at the CBC, looks like there are a lot of dead salmon on the south coast again, though nothing like the massive die-off 5 or 6 years ago. Still, though, these mortality incidents, as the industry calls them, very unfortunate. And now at 3 locations, so we'll take a look at that. And a pretty interesting solution to finding new housing in New West Valley, which is where I'd like to start this morning. If any of these topics are of interest to you, or as we head into the weekend, if your community's got something special on the go that you want to bring to people's attention, by all means, give us a call. And if there's a topic that I haven't mentioned or went missing this week, you know where to call. Or if you tried to call in and you didn't make it on the line, please give us another chance. The phone number is 709-273-5211. That's here in St. John, 709-273-5211. And right across the province, 1-888-590-8626. That's 1-888-590-8626. Well, when it comes to the housing shortage in this province, you'll often hear, as I did on this very show this week, that a big part of the problem is that we let in Ukrainians, and before that we let in Syrians, we let in Filipinos, lots of people from other countries, and of course they need somewhere to live, so they end up competing with people who were born here for limited housing. Now, usually, and I'm not pointing fingers here, but sometimes people will make this argument and they'll start by saying something like, I'm no racist, but... And look, you do not have to be racially aware to look at the economic reality of supply and demand. That there's definitely some truth that pressure on the housing market does arrive from the influx of new Canadians. However, a bigger truth is if we don't find people, and I mean waves of people, to come to this province, to get jobs, pay taxes, become part of Newfoundland and Labrador society, those of us who have passed the age of 50, and there are more of us than anybody else in this place, we are going to be in a bind as we age, because the tax base to fund all the things we want, not just healthcare, schools, roads, the whole thing, it's just not going to be there. And I don't mean just healthcare. If you really want to get a sobering glance at the gray, aging iceberg of demography facing us, I'd encourage you to go to the Canadian Census online, look up Newfoundland and Labrador, and take a look at the birth rate. And when you break it down and you take a look at just how old, numerous the population here is going to be in 10 years, if you think we're old now, you really got to look at the census and you'll see, wow, this is going to get very, very serious. So we do need people. But what gets much less attention is the returning wave of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians who left this place after the cod moratorium, moved to Ontario or Alberta or any other part of Canada, or even somebody from around the Bay who just moved to St. John's. But on the case of people who left the province, they got married, had kids, really lived most of their lives away from here, paid taxes throughout their lives in another province or territory. Now the kids have grown up. They own a 3 or 4 bedroom house that has just accumulated an incredible amount of value over the decades that they lived elsewhere, so they can sell that home in Canada, build up their nest egg, and then finally move back home. And certainly we celebrate the fact that many Newfoundlanders and Labradorians want to come home, and many do so. But as an economic model, having people spend the healthy part of their young lives elsewhere and then return here once they're significantly older, when we're all in a position, I mean, aging is overrated. We're going to need medical attention. It's just not a great model. And I say that without any kind of judgment. Everybody in this country has the right to move wherever they want. And I don't have to tell you how well that many, many people have done from Newfoundland and Labrador, figuring out life in Alberta or elsewhere. And I'm not really talking about the rotation workers in this small rant, but rather about people who are now seniors who've decided to come home. And when you compare that demographic to young immigrants, there are two key differences, two key advantages. The immigrant class, younger, provide less of a strain on the healthcare system, but they do require government services to start their new lives here, no question about that. The returning retiree class, they are resuming their lives here, not starting a new life, really. In a sort of a way they are, but they're basically coming back and they know the place. They don't go through the same culture shock. They need to find a place to live, and they too will be paying taxes. Maybe they'll buy a house, pay municipal taxes, somewhat lower income taxes if they're just living off a pension, or they might be working as well. They pay sales tax. So I'm not saying there are no revenue benefits when somebody who was born here comes home. So where's Anthony going with this? What's he going on about? Well, there's a really interesting story that the Canadian Press has. Sarah Smelly is the local reporter here who works for CP, and she's got this great yarn about the housing crisis, not here in St. John's or Mount Pearl, not this side of the overpass. No, her article examines the housing crunch in New West Valley, and her story's main idea, the thesis, essentially this, that Newfoundlanders who fled during the COD moratorium are returning, and they are creating or helping to create something of a housing crunch in different parts of the province. Now, this is an opinion here, but journalism that just identifies a problem, shows us something was really bad, often wrong, that's not working, that's one thing. But really good journalism, excellent journalism, also shines a light on the solutions. And that's what Sarah does in the CP story. At the center of the story is Mike Tiller, the mayor of New West Valley. And what he talks about in this story is that community's decision and attempts to hire a Danish firm to build a 17-unit housing complex. So if this goes ahead, the municipality has bought the land. They're getting some federal assistance as well. These modular oceanfront buildings will be part of the solution. And what I really like in the article is the description of how young families are also part of the returning wave to New West Valley. So it could be the kids of kids or even mainlanders who decided they're going to make Newfoundland a Newfoundland home. So yes, the housing crisis story is serious, but what I like about this is it's very positive. It highlights one part of the solution that I don't think gets as much attention. People can sort of whine and complain about the province and the federal government, and no doubt that's where a lot of the money is going to be. But municipalities are key to addressing some of the housing issues in our province, because they've got to find the right solutions for their communities, and nobody knows what those solutions could be better than the people, the mayors, the councillors, and what they hear from the people who live in their community. So if I were you, I'd Google Canadian Press New West Valley, and you should find the story. And if you're from there or any smaller municipalities finding solutions to the housing issues where you live, please give us a call. And if you're from one of the bigger communities here on the Avalon, also feel free to weigh in on this too. 709-273-5211 here in the metro region, 273-5211. Toll free 1-888-590-8626. Now to the south coast, salmon aquaculture. Now CBC reporting about 3 incidents resulting in thousands of fish going belly up at a couple of fish farms. These mortality incidents or die-offs happened on farms that belong to 2 well-known companies in aquaculture. Mowi, they lost more than 17,000 fish, about 10% of the total, at a series of pens in Ronconter East. And at around the same time in Hermitage Bay, a day earlier actually, Cook Aquaculture, another big player, reports that it lost 47,000 fish in one incident. And Cook says that in their case, it was a combination of water temperatures rising too high and sea lice. Now, Mowi doesn't mention sea lice, but it does say that their die-off was connected to rising water temperatures. And seeing how both of these die-offs kind of happen in the same 24-hour period, it would seem to be that that's connected that way. Cook, by the way, also had a separate incident where they lost 17 to 18,000 juvenile fish, this during a transfer, a smolt transfer, so young fish. And these mortality events happen around July 19th and July 20th, just over a week ago. Now, the companies say they've cleaned up the mess, and that and we've seen these happen before. These kinds of incidents, just an unfortunate reality, a fact of life in the fish farming business. Now, I am a little curious about these die-offs and the fact that they're linked to rising water temperatures. If you think about the kind of summer that we've seen, and more studies forecasting a faster onset of higher temperatures than scientists had previously predicted, it got me wondering how the industry intends to adapt to these kinds of incidents or mortality events. And I know the industry has transformed the economies of many communities on the South Coast, and it's good to see these companies reporting these incidents. You might recall there was a massive mortality event about 5 years ago involving Mowi. More than 2 million fish perished at their operations, sort of in the same area too. And the company had its licenses suspended for not reporting the incident the way it should have. So it's, as difficult as it is for industries to see these animals die in large numbers, it's nothing like what happened 5 years ago. And at least in this case, it seems as though it's being reported in a timely way. So if you want to talk about these incidents, the pros and cons of salmon aquaculture, by all means, give me a call. Now, I hate to say I told you so, especially when it comes to Donald Trump, but on Monday's show, I mentioned that August 1st was an important date, even though at that time I think everybody was focused on July 30th, the regatta. Today was the deadline Trump had imposed for a deal between the United States and Canada. And on Monday, we learned that over the past weekend, the Europeans and Trump had agreed to an overall 15% tariff on their goods. So the Europeans agreed to take a 15% cut, while also agreeing to buy something like $750 billion, $750 billion in weaponry and military equipment. So last night, Trump did what many politicians and business people here feared might happen. He hit us with a 35% tariff. So there's so many ways to look at this. It's 20% higher than what the EU managed to negotiate with him. And I was sort of flipping through different newspapers this morning online, as the New York Times put it this way. As President Trump rolled out his latest round of tariffs late Thursday, he fell again into what has become a familiar, if surprising, pattern, favoring Mexico and stiffing, I like that, stiffing Canada. So Mexico will get a 90-day reprieve, so 3 months before it will find out if it's going to be dealt with the same way. But for Canada, an increase from 25% to 35%, and that crushing 50% that was previously announced on steel and aluminum, that stays in effect, and I think the 25% for the auto sector stays there as well. And even worse, these tariffs, they all take effect immediately. Now, if you were listening a bit earlier when I was talking to Russell and Jerry Lynn, looking at what some of the business associations in Canada are saying, the Conference Board of Canada being one of them, we do have some protection, and a lot of goods, in fact, the majority of goods, are protected by by CUSMA, the Canada-United States-Mexico Free Trade Agreement. So part of this is sort of typical Trump bluster, where it looks really tough and mean and nasty. And I think that some of this is just basically show Americans, like, I'm not going to let other countries take advantage of us, because that's the kind of fiction that Trump has been propagating. Because remember, this all started because Canada was allegedly some kind of gateway to fentanyl, which has been completely disproven. A couple of pounds, I think, was seized in the course of a year. Most of that coming from Mexico, which is getting this 3-month reprieve. And then just yesterday or the day before, Trump saying that he was really unhappy to hear Mark Carney talk about the possibility of recognizing Palestine as a state. And so he said, well, if they're going to talk about the Middle East that way, then we're probably not going to get a trade deal. So there's so many explanations from the president about this, depending on what day of the week it is. But I think one of the interesting things from a Canadian political point of view, forget about the economics for a second, is here you have a prime minister in Mark Carney who pulled off this remarkable comeback in the last election, largely because he campaigned on the notion that he was a better choice to handle the man who is in charge of the free world right now, the occupant of the White House. So he rode this wave of support that kept the Liberals in power. But with this erratic president, how do you negotiate anything at all if the intention was to basically hammer us all along? And so I think this is going to be a challenge for Carney, probably the biggest challenge he's had. The honeymoon period of the election has lasted for a certain duration. We'll see what happens now. Or there's always the chance it might solidify and unite people. One person who seems to have risen as almost Captain Canada in all this is Rob Ford. And I noticed this morning the Premier of Ontario, and let's face it, for the auto industry, steel and aluminum, he's the one who's really getting smacked here, and so is the province of Ontario. Mr. Ford saying that Carney should stop being so nice and it's time to hit the Americans with everything we've got. That's not something that the Prime Minister has done, and he has taken some major criticism for perhaps being a little too understanding and a little too kind to the Americans. So I'd like to know what you think about that or the other subjects that I mentioned. So the trade war with Trump, aquaculture, creative housing solutions. If any of these stories appeal to you, give us a call, 273-5211 in St. John's, 709-273-5211, and toll free across the province, 1-888-590-8626. And again, if you've got a special event happening on the weekend you want to let us know about, then give us a ring and Dave will get you lined up on and get you on the air as fast as we can. And love to talk to you today on my blast day. So make sure we got lots of people. It'd be great to hear from you. I look forward to talking to you. Your calls right after the break. Okay, we'll get the show going. The numbers here in St. John's, 273-5211, 709-273-5211, and toll-free, 1-888-590-8626, right across the province. Let's go to line number 1. Josh, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. How's it going today?
Fantastic. It's Friday. Can't get better than that.
It's better. It's better. I'm finally out of the hospital. Great.
Yeah, well, what do you want to talk about?
Just basically regarding shortages in the emerge department and how it's directly affecting healthcare. For me anyway.
Okay.
In the last couple of days.
All right. So
basically, yeah, you go ahead.
No, I just want to say, so are we talking about Health Science Center, St. Clair's?
This was St. Clair's. I went to St. Clair's first and then left because of shortages and went to Health Sciences.
Okay, tell me what happened.
So basically I was feeling unwell in the morning, whenever, I had headaches and dizziness. Eventually I ended up going to St. Clair's. So I go into St. Clair's, wait 5 minutes to even see anybody to start with. And then one of the first things that the staff had said to me was, we're three nurses short. I look at the board above me. It says 5 to 7 hours wait for non-urgent care and 2 to 4 hours wait for urgent care. And it felt very obvious to me that I wasn't going to see anybody anytime soon. So I chose to leave on my own accord.
Okay.
I went to Health Sciences. When I got to Health Sciences, went up to the desk, same thing. Nurse looked at me, immediately took me to the back, and within 15, 20 minutes, I was in a CAT scan machine.
Really?
Yeah. And this is nothing on the staff at all. This is I could see that they were, overworked. They told me directly they were 3 nurses short at St. Clair's.
Yeah.
But, as an exact, if I had sat there in the chair for hours, according to how urgent my care happened at Health Sciences, that wasn't, you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know, it's just, it's pretty poor to see that it's not their fault that they don't have staff, right?
Right. I have to say, Josh, I'm kind of two minds of what you're saying, because so you go to St. Clair's, they tell you we're 3 nurses short, it's going to be a long wait because you're not urgent. You take it upon yourself, and I think very correctly, to go to Health Sciences, and they see you pretty quickly, right?
Yes. Oh, immediately. And at St. Clair's, I basically was triaged immediately at Health Sciences, where I don't feel like I was, I don't know how long that would have took at St. Clair's, but I was feeling bad enough that I wasn't willing to wait. You know what I mean? Right.
Now, I guess the nub of all this, did somebody at Health Sciences say, okay, look, we've got this guy Josh, and this is actually more serious than it seems, so we got to see him quickly? Or did you ever find it?
She didn't really say. She just looked at me and then told me to come in back with her pretty much right away. Now, mind you, my condition may have deteriorated. I don't really know, right? Because I was in that condition. So maybe my condition deteriorated more. But it was literally the time it took me to drive from St. Clair's to Health Sciences.
Right. So did they do the usual thing where they take your blood pressure and all that before they decided to?
Oh yeah. And then they started doing the stroke, signs,
right.
I guess it's called, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the understaffing felt and also one thing I observed from being at St. Clair's. I'm not saying that every condition is visible or whatever, but it seemed to me like a lot of the people waiting in the emerge at St. Clair's were there for more like doctor's appointments than emerge. If that makes sense.
Well, yeah, this has
They didn't
been...
look like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but that's common for us, I guess, with no family doctors, right?
Yeah, well, it's become kind of the norm with so many people without a primary caregiver, whether it's a doctor or a nurse practitioner or somebody. The hospital emergencies have become kind of like that, which is one of the reasons you have a sign up there telling you you're going to be waiting 5 to 7 hours.
So
but Josh,
to encourage people with non-urgent care to maybe not wait, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, but at the end of the story, it sounds to me like you got the health care you needed.
I did eventually, yes. It was just, but I feel like part of that was because of my own decision not to wait.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. Maybe you got to stand up. But I guess if everyone's goes to emerge and then starts losing their mind saying I want care now, that's not going to fix anything either, right?
Well, I mean, most of health experts now say that one of the solutions, not just in this province, but in any province where you've got a healthcare system that's kind of creaking, is for people to become their own best advocates. So if you had the notion that I'm not going to wait 7 hours, I think I need to see somebody, and so you took it upon yourself. But then again, I kind of wonder. So who stays there and doesn't get care, and then maybe the outcome's not so good.
Yeah, and then I also wonder if it's like maybe partially with like the epidemic of in our province of drug use. So me being a young person, 35, comes in with something wrong, I'm not much of a priority compared to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because when you see the people that are hanging around outside down there, like it's people who aren't in good spots in their life, right? If walking outside the doors of the emerge, you can see it. So like,
can you just give me
that's not fit. Yeah.
Can you just give me a comparison? So, how many people would you guesstimate were in the emergency waiting room at St. Clair's versus the number of people who are at Health Sciences? Because my experience with
very similar, I'd say, from what I've seen.
Okay.
Like, at that point in time, mind you, I wasn't like paying much attention because I was, wasn't feeling well.
Yeah.
But it seemed like it seemed comparable. In numbers, right?
I'm just curious. How are you feeling now?
All right, like better.
Yeah.
Right? I just got discharged today. I'm still having some trouble talking and that kind of stuff, as you can probably tell. But
so did this happen just yesterday?
29th.
29th. Okay, so 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did they give you any kind of sense as to what you've got to do to take care of yourself, or you got some sort of plan?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I do. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. I don't want to I don't want to pry into your.
It's not more or less about my specific case. It's more about the time and the resources, right?
Yeah.
Like the resources at Health Sciences were amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Top notch. Like everything happened right away. Specialists, tests. Like it was great. It was just the initial portion of attending emerge and the shortages, right?
Yeah. Is there a reason you went to St. Clair's first instead of Health Sciences?
I was staying and renting a house downtown, an Airbnb that was like literally around the corner from St. Clair's.
Oh, okay. So it was proximity.
So it was immediate. Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Yeah. So what advice would you share with people? Because I mean, I know there are a lot of people who decide to go to St. Clair's for emergency care and non-emergency care.
I would say if you only know what you feel like truly yourself, if you feel like there's something more going on, I guess, like you got to take it upon yourself, like you said, and only you know. But I don't know. I guess people have different opinions on their own health as well, right? But
yeah, I got to say, I really
feel like something's really wrong. I guess you got to push it.
Yeah. I mean, I really appreciate the phone call because as somebody with a lot of friends and family involved in the healthcare system, I think we tend to hear only the negative. So at least you've mixed the positive outcome with what happened.
I don't think it has anything to do with the staff, because it's completely like I've really got top-notch care, right?
Yeah.
At the end.
Still, it's very telling. It's very telling that when you go to St. Clair's, they say, "Hey, listen, you should know right now we're 3 nurses short."
Yes. Yes, exactly, right. So that also led to me, wanting more desire to leave and go somewhere else, knowing that,
Yeah, and I think Health Sciences Health Science Center, maybe they had a better staffing situation. Listen, Josh, I appreciate the call. All the best, and I wish you a speedy recovery, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Yeah, thanks. You too, man.
Okay. Appreciate that. Before I get to the break, just a traffic note here. There's an increased police presence on the Trans-Canada this hour. This is near the Fox Trap Access Road as part of what the RCMP call an ongoing police operation. So they're asking people to avoid the area while officers work at the scene there. The police say there is no risk to public safety. The RCMP will provide more information as it becomes available. So once again, there's an increased police presence on the Trans-Canada at this hour near the Foxtrap Access Road as part of what the RCMP call an ongoing police operation. So be careful. They would really appreciate it if people will avoid that area. Okay, well, think we might actually go to the break a tad early because I don't want to cut off callers. If you want to get in line, by all means, do so, and we'll get to Morgan right after the break. All right, I'm Anthony Germain, sitting in for Patty Daly, as I have been doing all week. Last day today. It's been a great week. Phone numbers here in St. John's, 273-5211, 709-273-5211, and toll-free right across the province, 1-888-590-8626. Going to go to line 3. Morgan, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Anthony.
What would you like to talk about?
You had a great week, boy. You had a good week. I listened to you off and on throughout the week. You had some great topics.
Oh, good. I'm glad you liked it. Which topic do you want to tackle now?
Well, I was coming on to have a chat about the budget, our deficits and budget, but listening to you there and your talk up there about these tariffs, that's going to affect everybody, not only us. I was just thinking as I heard you talking, I hope the hell it don't affect our seafood exports. I mean, say all of our stuff goes down to the Boston markets, eh?
Yeah. And
no, I'm hoping that other deal, Mexico, Canada, alleviates that. I mean, say that's over $1 billion industry.
Oh, it's huge. It's really important, and at the moment it enjoys an exemption, and let's hope it stays that way.
Okay, that's good. It's an exemption on that. That's great to hear. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But in any event, what prompted my call? I looked on your news this morning, on your VOCM website there. And I noticed the Harris Centre is being cut back.
Yeah.
I think you probably touched on that too. I'm glad to see somebody in there is coming to the senses. I think some of the stuff that this has evolved into is empire building at Mon, much the same as at Nalcor. Now, I don't want to sound like a measure of doom and gloom all the time, but they're spending a barrel of money they don't have. I'd say Harris would roll over in his grave. Didn't know what the nonsense was going on. And they can do a lot more cutting. As you probably know, we gave another grant a year, we, taxpayers, you and I, of $400 million to run that university. And the previous administrations in there, now $70 million of that is trying to get underway to fix some of the tunnels,
the munnels.
Yes. I mean to say... Yes, exactly, yes. They can cut a lot more in there. Like I say, in my day in there, university was basically a degree granting thing. You got a degree, like myself, in engineering, and you had one in education. You had medicine started there. Legally, you couldn't do it. I think you can do it today. But half the stuff they're getting on with in there, let's give you an example. As far as I know, if I've read correctly a while back, there's... let me see how many.
So you're just to be clear here, Morgan. You're not a big fan of the Harris Centre. You're okay with it being done away?
Some of the stuff with the Harris Centre was all right as it started off.
Yeah.
I really like I think I read there somewhere this morning. There's a democracy school connecting with students in Cape Town, South Africa. That might be all right, but it might be. Or demographics, looking at vital signs as it started off, looking at provinces. We don't have the money for it, Anthony. That's all right to do. As you know, we got to grant $400 million each year. Now, Mr. Gray, he said he summed it up in the way my thinking. He was on your line yesterday, I think the day before. He said the closure doesn't affect the lives of the province. That's enough said. I mean to say, it's nice to do when you sat down home at night with a light on over your shoulder reading some of this stuff, but to be the province funding that when we don't have the money to do it, there's what's I'm trying to say? There's 1,800, I think there's 1,500 to 1,800 profs at Mon. Now, in my day, a prof's load was, and I think it's the same today, was 4 courses per semester, 2 each term. That's what they teach generally. Half of the profs at Mon, and I know this from talking to some people I know in there, teaching one course, and the rest of it is research. Now, I was just going to give you a list. I had in mind a list, but I'm not going to do that for the simple reason it's going to affect the students. I saw over the summer and last fall, the students are out doing research on this and that and another thing. And if I start listing them, it's going to demean them. So I'm not. Anybody wants to know what research is undergo at Mon, just look up a website.
Yeah.
Research projects presently undergo at Mon. You won't believe it. We don't have the money, so I was glad to see that happening today. Because, and then look at Nalcor. I refer to Nalcor a minute. You heard, well, Nalcor is gone. Nalcor is not gone. They absorbed practically every man and woman on the hydro.
Right. Let's just.
That's the best one. On the Sunshine List, every one of them was making 50% to 100% of the equivalent within the core government.
Right.
And they still maintain that salary.
So Morgan, we can't talk about every empire building organization, but I want to come back to Memorial University and a point you just raised.
Yeah.
Yeah. You referenced the fact that there are a number of professors who teach a single course and they're doing research, and I think the salaries of professors and the issue of tenure has certainly come up as an area of examination, but it's such a thorny one to deal with, and I think most universities have a hard time dealing with what their staffing costs are. And so in the absence of any serious attempts to sort of deal with the pay structures, then things like the Harris Center become easier to cut than to actually address who's getting paid a lot of money for not actually teaching or doing. I'm going to get a lot of trouble for this, but that's the essential reality, right? They have to cut somewhere.
I know. That's what I'm trying to say. If we can do it, but look, if we got money, yes. But look, Anthony, we're 19. If you listen to Siobhan and the government, the budget the year, we're close to we're a little bit over 19 billion. Okay, and I tell you what now, I had a list of stuff, but Dave told me at the beginning you're only allowed. I forgot that you're only allowed one call, and I talked to you Monday there, and I'm going to go on. Let
okay.
the people come on, but I'll say this: they come on, always give us the net deficit, which is 19 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what we're in the hole actually?
Tell me.
49 billion. 49, let's say $50 billion for round numbers, okay? We're in the hole 50 billion. They give us net. In other words, if you sold the 2 hospitals we got and all the schools and the Confederation buildings, you bring it down to 19. Now, did that sound real to you? Like that's our assets.
Well, yeah, we always get lost in numbers. Listen,
I'll leave it on this now. We got
okay.
500,000 people here, 50 billion debt. That's $100,000 for you, me, and everyone in Newfoundland.
It's definitely.
We let her go at that.
It's a mire of debt, Morgan. I hope you have a great weekend.
Yeah, and you too, and I hope to talk to you again sometime.
Okay, all the best.
All the best.
Okay, Morgan. All right, let's keep the calls going. Let's talk to Gavin Will on line 4. Good morning, Gavin.
Good morning, Anthony. Nice to hear your voice again.
Good to have you on the show. How's it going?
It's going well, thank you very much.
All right.
I listened to you on the radio this week. It's almost as if you'd done this before.
Now, I don't want to come across like the amazing Kreskin, and if you don't know who that is, ask your parents. I'm assuming you want to talk about something that's happening in Portland Cove, St. Philip.
I do. Well, actually, yes, I'm in Portugal, St. Phillips, and something that's happening in the region amongst the various towns,
sure,
including Torbay and all that. There's a transit survey that the towns are put out kind of collectively. Mm-hmm. And I'm encouraging people to take the time to fill it out, even if you don't live in Torbay or Portugal, St. Phillips, because transit is, I believe, is one of the kind of the missing kind of public assets in the region.
Transit, yeah.
There's transit is. I have a couple of different reasons. One is that if people want to visit businesses and the trails in the communities, you have to take the car or ride a bike. And some people are fine riding their bikes all the way out and all the way back. But some people might like to put them on the rack of a bus and drive, and come out here to experience the wonderful coastline and businesses like, the Murray's, for example, has the Grounds Cafe and all that, and by the beach and everything. So that kind of economic development rationale for transit. In addition, not everybody actually has a car, and I know this personally. I'm a volunteer with the St. Lawrence Church pantry. In fact, it's my week. I'm actually making deliveries today.
Good man.
Yeah, it's real. If you want to know what's going on in your community, just volunteer for the local food bank or in our Portrait Close St. Phillips case, the pantry.
Right.
There are a surprising number of people who do not have vehicles. I know one person I'm delivering to today. I know him, and he can no longer drive, and he could theoretically get to town if you could find someone to take him.
Right.
But he doesn't have that.
So Gavin, the gist of the proposal under consideration, and I've read a little bit about this, is that there be a bus that would go through PCSP and somewhere in St. John's to sort of get people to be able to explore the Killick Coast or to be part of the beautiful area in which you live. I mean, what's the gist of the idea here?
Well, as far as I can tell, it's a joint initiative of the community. So it isn't just Portrait Cove and Phillips. So it's Torbay, and they're basically looking at various options. Are they going to have look at a Metrobus? Are they going to look at a separate busing option that'll link up with key areas in St. John's,
right?
Such as I'll give you an example. In Markham, Ontario, Markham is borders Toronto, but they have their own bus service, but they do interlock, so it can work that way. So
right.
Those are they haven't made any decisions. They're just looking at the various options.
But is the idea here for kind of like an express bus, or is it a bus that's going to do the milk run all the way through the East End as it makes its way to the far end, Torbay, Pooch Cove? What's the notion here? What's being considered?
Yeah. So there is an express bus option that's being looked at. There's also kind of an on-demand service. I know that St. John's Metrobus is looking at that as well.
Right.
But that might be something that is particularly appropriate for rural areas, which is what the Killick Coast area basically is. Whereby you book a bus and it tells you that you'll be able to catch the bus on your street or at the corner of a main street at such and such a time.
Yeah. Well, I think especially as we're about to welcome all these athletes and all that, I think any kind of forward-looking transit idea is something that's desirable. I got to move to the break, but I just wonder for people who are listening, thinking, "Hey, I'd like to check out this." Where can people find out more?
Well, you can go to the town of Portrait Cove St. Phillips, the pcsp.ca, and I think the town of Torbay has a link as well.
Okay.
I know I've heard Craig Scott speak about that. So,
yep.
So just go to the website or go to the Facebook page.
Okay.
For people. Yep.
All right. Well, listen, Gavin, appreciate the call. I hope you have a great weekend. Nice talking to you again.
You too. Thank you, Anthony.
All right.
Okay.
That's Gavin Will in Portrait Cove St. Phillips. We will be back on Open Line right after this break. Welcome back to Open Line. Let's move quickly now to Line 1 and the independent MHA for Mount Pearl Southlands, Paul Lane. Welcome to the show.
Well, good morning, Anthony. How are you this morning?
I am very well, sir. Good to hear your voice again.
And you too, sir. And may I say, you've done a masterful job this week.
Oh, appreciate that. It's good to get back behind the microphone. I know you are a regular. I've certainly heard many of your conversations with Patty. So what's on your mind this morning?
Well, I wanted to talk about public safety and policing, and I guess, and I've spoken to Patty about a number of iterations, I guess, of that subject in the past, but I did hear my colleague Helen Conway Ottenheimer on with you earlier this week, which is, I guess, what kind of spurred my call this week. There's no doubt in my mind that we need to increase policing in this province, and certainly in this region, certainly in my community. I do want to preface that, though, by saying that I really believe we have, I'm sure we do have, I know we have, a very serious drug problem in our province, and certainly in this area and throughout the province. And I know that's spurring a lot of the, criminal activities that we're seeing, and we're certainly getting a lot of people constantly reporting issues around vehicles being broken into, rummaged through sheds, break into the houses. Every time you turn on the radio, it seems there's another standoff here somewhere in the region with the RNC, people getting stabbed, shot, you name it. And I think a lot of that has to do with drugs, and there's no doubt about it that, there's no simple solution to all these things. It's a very complex issue. I think addressing the social determinants of health are obviously also relate to this issue as well, because if we can address, I think, poverty, and we can address how homelessness and those types of things, I think that will go a long way in solving some of these issues. Obviously, in listening to Tina Olivero, and I certainly support a lot of what she is saying, and I will be at her rally on September the 11th around how we address the drug problem in our province, and the issue with addictions, and that we need to have we need to have the appropriate resources in place to deal with people so that they can recover, and that not only can we get them clean, but they can stay clean as well. Mm-hmm. But as we address all these issues and a lot of the things that are contributing to the problem we also have to live in the here and now, and people need to feel safe in their communities. And I think I heard Helen say that there was some statistics that came out from Stats Canada, and Newfoundland is not doing very well in terms of its crime statistics. I think we're one of the greatest increases in many crimes in the country is happening here in Newfoundland, Labrador.
Especially, just so, I'm not sure if you saw that, Paul, but I mean, part of it was the violent crime was up, I think, 2% or 2 or 3 percentage points over the decade, but it was down from last year. But certainly property crimes, break-ins, and all the rest, we were the worst in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Helen also referenced the fact that they had put in an ATIP request to, I guess, Department of Justice or whatever, and it shows that policing resources are actually down. And I know there are people, all throughout Newfoundland, Labrador, that are crying out for more RCMP, and I certainly support the entire province when it comes to that, and for increasing RCMP. But certainly in my area, in Mount Pearl, Southlands, and for the whole region for that matter, we need more RNC officers on the ground. Yes, we have to address all the root causes that I already mentioned, but people still need to feel safe in the meantime as we address those issues, and we need the appropriate number of RNC officers, certainly in this region, on the ground to address that. I've talked to contacts I have, within the RNC and within Justice, and I'm told that we really need at least 5 to 6 additional patrol units on the ground every shift. So that would be 20 to 24 additional officers just for this region, because right now, for the most part, I'm told, in most occasions, RNC are really only showing up in a timely manner to what they call priority one calls, emergency type calls, and for other calls you could be waiting hours, you could be waiting a couple of days and so on to actually get a response. And this actually came up a number of I've attended a couple of crime prevention meetings over the last while, and people trying to set up neighborhood watch in my community. And what you hear from residents, of course, is that you call, and nobody shows up. And even the officers and people that were there, that were conducting the meeting, sort of acknowledged the fact that, from a neighborhood watch, from a crime prevention perspective, you should still call, because at least then we're recording the calls, and then hopefully you can get some additional attention. But the reality of it is that there aren't enough officers to respond to these calls, and if people want to have officers available, for example, that could be patrolling your neighborhood in the nighttime, everyone would like to think that at some point during the night there's going to be an RNC car drive down the streets, just keeping an eye out to make sure there's nobody out going around breaking into cars, breaking into sheds, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, and establishing...
The reality of it is that the resources are simply not there to do it.
Yeah, and establishing a presence. Listen, Paul, I've only got about a minute and a bit, but the other aspect in this that a number of callers have raised is, and one caller I remember saying, police aren't social workers, and when it comes to the crimes that a lot of communities, and I certainly heard about this during the election campaign, is the people who are known to police seem to commit crimes, and then they're back on the streets, and they are known not just to the police, but to the people whose houses they break into. And I wonder what your thoughts are on, the judges and all this. I've only got about a minute.
Yeah, well, I absolutely share that concern as well, and I think I heard Helen, when she was speaking to you, talk about the need to look at, I guess, I'm going to call it, for lack of a better term, bail reform and so on. There's a lot of repeat offenders, of course, that they commit a crime, they go in, and they're automatically released. People call it catch and release. And they're released on conditions, and then they go out and they breach the conditions, and then they're released again, and so on. It's like a revolving door. So I think that we have to be stricter when it comes to these repeat offenders, and in terms of whether or not they can qualify for bail, what conditions are going to be on their release, in terms of having regular check-ins with the police and so on. And of course, again, we also need to, deal with the root cause, because these people, a lot of these people are doing it, because they have addictions and so on, and they'll do anything for the fix.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of it as well. So,
all right, Paul.
No simple solution for sure, but I am certainly calling for more RNC in my area for sure.
Okay, message received. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Right. And by the way, Anthony,
I gotta go, Paul. Gotta go.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
No
That's Paul Lane. That's okay. The MHA for Mount Pearl Southlands. It's time for the news. Welcome back. Just an update, that situation I mentioned earlier. There was a RCMP operation on the Trans-Canada Highway near the Foxtrap Access Road. Apparently that has all been cleared up. So initially the police asking people to stay away from that area. That has all been cleared up. So back to normal. I'm Anthony Germain, sitting in for Patty Daly. The phone numbers to call to get on the show here in St. John's, 273-5211, 709-273-5211, and toll free right across the province, 1-888-590-8626, going to line 2. And Connie Pike joins me now. Good morning, Connie.
Oh, good morning, Anthony. It's been a minute.
Yes, I'm sorry that you had to wait, but I'm really glad you're on the show.
Oh, no worries. I'm kind of used to waiting. That's the nature of the program, right?
Right. So what would you like to talk
Anthony,
about?
I want to... Well, first, I'd like to commend you on your efforts in Terra Nova. I really like to see good people stepping up and offering themselves for public service. And, I think you would have made an excellent impact in the province in terms of your knowledge and your background experience and so on.
I
and
appreciate
your ability to.
I appreciate it. Things happen for a reason, Connie. So what's on your mind? And thank you for that.
Yes, they do. Well, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but I've been calling Patty once a month for almost 2 years now, actually. It'll be 2 years on the 15th of August.
Right.
I am with a community group called Miles for Smiles.
Oh, yes,
And
I've heard you.
Yeah, child abuse prevention work. So I call Patty and I give him the numbers that are on the court docket for the previous month in all 10 courts around the province. So
Right.
That's what I'm doing this morning, is to give you the court numbers for July month. And again, we're right up there in our average range. There's 338 cases listed on all 10 dockets for July, and 70 different people were charged with those 338 offenses. And this has been our usual number, Anthony, and the numbers are not going down, and I can tell that the trend for August is much the same. So it's kind of discouraging, and I always offer the caveat to remind people that only about 10% of cases are ever reported to the police, and much less than that, a far less number, about 2 to 3% actually end up going to court. So when I say 338 cases, that's a small number,
Right.
relatively speaking.
And in case people aren't clear, the nature of the cases that we're talking about, I know you can't get too specific about it all, but is what?
Well, that's something that I really wanted to emphasize this morning, actually, the types of crimes. And to be honest, Anthony, I don't see it going down, mainly because of social media. But when I outline these types of charges, you'll probably understand that. So we're seeing sexual assault, of course, interference with a child, invitation to sexual touching, displaying sexually explicit material to a child, luring via computers, exposing genital organs to children under 16, unlawfully obtaining sex with children, distribution of child porn, possessing child porn, accessing child porn, making child porn, sexual exploitation, corrupting a child, abduction of children under 16, forcible confinement, incest, uttering threats, bestiality in the presence of a child, failing to provide the necessities of life, abandoning children, and assault with weapons. So
it's a very
these are the types.
Yeah, it's a very grim picture, and it's it's disheartening to say the least to hear that the numbers are kind of plateaued or going up slightly. Just before I let you go, can you just remind people why it is that you are so committed to bringing this kind of data and shining a spotlight on it? Because I think, as you know, people don't want to hear it often.
No, they don't want to hear it. And, on occasions when I have presented to community groups, which I'm very willing to do anytime someone would like me to have input into any training or anything like that. I've told people particular stories about children who have been harmed because of my policing background and incidents that I've attended to, and people are shocked. And, I don't think we should be shocked, but we have become desensitized to these incidents, and everything that I hear, Pauline was just on talking about property crimes being up and such, and the police are under-resourced, Anthony, and you're seeing home invasions, you're seeing sexual assaults, you're seeing child abuse cases, you're seeing homicides. These types of cases are extremely, extremely complex, multi-layered, needing many, many resources. And of course, it's not hard to figure out why property crimes are up when the police have to deal with these extremes of crime.
Absolutely.
And the last particular report that Ms. Conway Ottenheimer talked about on Tuesday on your show the statistics on women in particular. I wanted to highlight that because the latest Stats Canada report said the largest increase noticed in Canada was in the proportion of women who were being killed by a spouse or an intimate partner, and that rose from 32% of women victims in 2023 to 42% in 2024.
Yeah.
And,
that was one of the most shocking findings, I think, in that to see, because, with so much education and spotlight on how bad it's been, and we've heard this before, and that usually it's somebody who they know the attacker and all that. I mean, I found that really, really depressing to actually see that hasn't changed.
Well, it just seems that women and children are being marginalized here. I can't imagine these kinds of numbers, and I'll be perfectly blunt. If men were being killed at this rate by their partners, there would have been action taken a long time ago. But what I want to highlight, because of the work that we're doing at Miles for Smiles in preventing crimes against children, children become statistics in these cases. We might think it's happening to grown women, and we may have judgments about that. Well, they shouldn't have been there, or they shouldn't have stayed, or why didn't they report? All these judgmental statements that we make. But in most of these cases, children are being, affected by default. And actually, pets are being affected. You'd be amazed when I'm counting these court numbers each month. You'd be amazed the number of times I see unlawfully causing an animal unnecessary suffering. And it's because, the family members, if a woman is being abused, the family members, children, the fur babies, we'll call them pets, everybody is affected by these crimes.
Yeah, no,
and it's very, very sad. We really are not doing enough. Again, partially because the police are under-resourced, partially because people aren't taking it seriously. Just because we're not doing enough prevention work, we have a major problem in our community that the numbers have not changed in decades.
No, and you've made it quite clear, Connie. I got to move things along, but it's horrible to hear, but important to hear, and I'm glad you're still shining a spotlight on this, Connie. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony.
Connie Pike, Miles for Smiles. We'll be back right after the break. Okay, now let's go to Charlene on line 5. Hello, Charlene.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm very well. Welcome to the program. What would you like to discuss?
I want to discuss how my husband and I have been trying to get his file at Workplace Now corrected for multiple years now. There is a lot of mistakes, a lot of inaccuracies. There's been no calculations to close his claim. They've used time, and they've used medical information instead of using dollar amounts to discontinue his compensation. They have claimed that it's a meniscal tear when it's an ACL tear. And that was proven after his August 5th, 2019 reoccurrence. Prior to that, the meniscal tear was just a guess by a physiotherapist in Corner Brook, Newfoundland. And then after the August 5th, 2019 reoccurrence, it was actually proven by MRI that it was an ACL tear and there was no meniscal tear at all.
So I just want to be clear. Sorry, can you just explain the distinction between the two so a listener can understand what we're talking about here?
Well, the meniscus and the ACL are ligaments in your knee. And he has a right knee injury, and that injury is an ACL partial tear. Mm-hmm. It causes instability and an altered gait that is permanent. He has lost his power engineering career over this. He has a permanent loss of earning capacity. They have denied him his estimated loss of earning capacity based on this since since September the 27th of 2022.
So has Workplace NL sort of been explicit with you as to why they've taken this away?
Actually, Workplace NL is not in contact with us at all anymore. They have consistently refused to, have to even acknowledge that these inaccuracies and mistakes and everything else even exist. They are, when we send in requests for answers, they send back a letter stating that they've already answered it and they have nothing else to add. We have sent in an email that said we only want yes or no answers, and we've received a letter back stating that they already answered the letter, which they didn't, because we have absolutely nothing on our files that answer only yes or no and legislation to support it. And all we have is this letter that says they've already addressed it and that they have nothing else to provide. And that is very unprofessional answering to a question or emails with yes or no questions on it.
Right.
You have to be professional, and you have to just answer yes or no if you are given a question that deserves a yes or no only answer.
Yeah, I guess they can sort of choose how they want to answer, whether they want to sort of go down the road of being told they can only answer something yes or no in a complicated case. But I hear what you're saying. Have you? I know nobody wants to pay for a lawyer.
I'm sorry, Anthony, but do you mean to tell me that as a professional, it is acceptable for me to say, no, I'm not answering a yes or no question?
Absolutely not.
Really? That's professional.
Yeah, absolutely not. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that in some ways...
That's what it sounded like to me.
No. What I'm saying is that particularly in the eyes of a government department, the default to me is going to be we're going to give you a very long explanation that's not always easy to understand. Listen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask if there's anybody in the legal profession who's listening to what Charlene is saying. If you want to give us a call, perhaps you can give us some advice as to what kind of course of action, because it sounds to me that you are in a dispute that has basically come to a dead end with Workplace NL, unless I'm wrong.
Well, the interesting part about that is underneath the Act itself, it states under Section 7.2b that the Act has the intent to serve injured workers and their dependents. And underneath Section 2c, it says that it has to be done using sound financial management. Mm-hmm. So that means that any lawyer who is employed and paid by the injury fund has to directly serve injured workers and their dependents. So even if we went to court underneath that act, Workplace NL, if they are using the injury fund to pay their lawyers, they're not legally allowed to do so underneath those two sections of the act.
I see.
So underneath the act, they would not want me to be in court, because that is the first thing that I would state to them, and their lawyers would have to cross over and serve my husband.
Right. Okay, well, listen, Charlene, I hope somebody who understands these matters in greater detail will get in touch with me, and if they do, I'll try to put them in touch with you, but I appreciate the call, and I wish you and your husband better luck than you seem to have had. Thanks for calling.
I do want to say one more thing.
Sure, quickly.
All of this is on my social media pages. Charlene Blake on Facebook, Charlene Cat on TikTok. Also, I have YouTube videos, and I'm on Platform X.
Okay.
So if you guys want to see any of that,
it's all there.
I started a petition today as well that said, I support injured worker Dustin Blake. So I would really appreciate anyone who's supporting us right now to go search for that petition and sign it.
Okay, Charlene, you sound...
I really appreciate listening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
good luck.
You know, we really need injured workers to have more support. We have absolutely none from anywhere, and I've reached out to basically everyone, and it's not actually a law issue ever anywhere when you have mistakes on a file.
Okay, I've got to move things along, Charlene. I really appreciate you calling, but I've really got to get things going. Thanks a lot for calling. We'll be back right after the break. All right, you're listening to Open Line. I'm filling in for Patty Daly. I'm Anthony Germain. It's good to be here again, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I can't believe it's already Friday. Going to go to line 3, and the leader of the NDP MHA for St. John's Centre, Jim Dinn, joins me now. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on, Anthony.
Absolutely. What do you want to discuss?
Well, I've been reading the reports of, I think when you look at the salmon die-off on the south coast and Hermitage Bay, I think between Maui and Cook Aquaculture, we're probably looking at over 80,000 fish that have died during July. And I guess I'm looking at shades of 2019 all over again. Not mind you, not quite as many, but still a significant number of fish. And I'm thinking at this stage, it's the recognition that warm water, that warming temperatures, sea lice, and so on and so forth were all mentioned there, and the mechanical issues of transferring fish. I think it's time really to have that serious conversation about looking at some form of closed containment versus the open sea pen aquaculture, either land-based or the technology that's sort of making its way into the field now, the sort of the floating donuts, which would go far to solve a lot of these problems and hopefully prevent a lot of these die-offs. But there seems to be a resistance to that, combined with the fact that also we have on the south coast a group of residents of Burgeo in the area looking to have a national marine protected area declared. So I think now's the time to start looking at a better way of doing aquaculture instead of what we're seeing here in this province.
I know for a while, Jim Dinn, many people started saying we support aquaculture, but not open net pen per se. I think the industry still maintains that the margins for land-based, particularly in Newfoundland, which would then require transportation of the product to the eastern seaboard, that the economics just don't work. As you well know, a lot of these communities on the south coast, they say that aquaculture has basically transformed them and thrown them a lifeline. It's a complicated issue.
Well, it's an interesting thing here with regards to where, I guess, location or in relation to markets. I would say that's true for any of our fish products, and that's and yet it's also true, I guess, for when it comes to shipping wind energy. The wind to hydrogen on the west coast. Yet we seem to be, and those situations we're willing to invest in. So I'm thinking here, if you look at an investment in that, we can sort of like a value added product, something that's certainly a lot more sustainable, something that I think could be used as a marketing technique to show that this is a very ethical, a very sustainable, very environmentally friendly approach to it. The other part to it, and I really believe this, comes down to when I brought this up in the House of Assembly in estimates meeting, like the use of the floating donut as a technology. Why not look at using that, but also looking at manufacturing these products here, or this technology here in Newfoundland and Labrador? We do have the Bull Arm site. How much would it be to convert to like creating the design, the infrastructure, the construction? You're actually, I would say, adding more value to the economy. So it's not about ending the aquaculture industry. It's about transforming it into something that's more sustainable. Because when I'm listening to 80,000 plus fish dying, that's not just business. There's a serious problem here. The other part of it is the impact on wild Atlantic salmon. It's another stressor on their well-being, as well as the impact on the other forms of the wild fish harvesting, whether it's they took the benthic habitat, the damage to the seafloor, to other species, and then we have on top of that, if you've seen the film by the Atlantic Salmon Federation, Rock Plastic Salmon, you can see here that in many ways that a lot of these the aquaculture companies are not what I would call being good stewards in leaving the trash, the sea pens, the debris and everything in bays, out of sight, out of mind. But we do have people who live in the area who have taken upon themselves to draw attention to this. So from my point of view, and I would say those who are deeply concerned with the industry and with the conservation, that let's start looking at transforming this industry into something else. It's not by accident as well that a lot of these companies are coming here, because regulations in Norway are becoming more stringent, and also the licenses for these aquaculture sites are a lot more expensive there than they are here, and I guess they're charging the full what it really the value of what it would be to set up an industry in their country. We should be doing the same here.
Yeah, and as Washington State and other jurisdictions have pushed some of these operations out, they're looking for other places where they can do business.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, too, with this, and I'll go back to 2023 when we were debating the act respecting the regulation of aquaculture in the province in 2023. What was bothersome about that to me is that they removed Article 9 from the old regulations, which basically required the register to keep records of licenses, leases for aquaculture sites open to public inspection. That's been removed. So really, there is no requirement there anymore. The response to my question at the time was, well, they can file an ATIP. So it seems in many ways even the new Aquaculture Act has become a little bit more opaque and less transparent in regulating who's got what lease and where and so on and so forth. So I think when I'm looking at this, 2019, 2.6 million die-off, and now here we are in 2025, and we're still seeing the same sort of massive die-offs, and the same factors are at play, and those problems haven't gone away. But I do believe there's a cost to that. I do believe, though, that if you make this more sustainable, it's a value-added product.
Okay.
It's still a good product, and I'll leave it at that.
All right, Jim Dinn, appreciate the call. Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
That's Jim Dinn, the leader of the NDP, MHA for St. John's Centre. Now, that die-off that Mr. Dinn mentioned, of course, was more than 2 million. That was basically wiped out Moe's production. The one we're talking about now, I think Moe says is 10%. So it's not nothing, but just to keep figures, still you're talking tens of thousands of dead salmon that have been cleaned up. If you want to weigh in on that, by all means, give us a call. 273-5211 here in St. John's. Toll-free 1-888-590-8626. Let's go to line 4 before we get to the break. Frank, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. Thanks for taking my call.
Pleasure.
I just give you a quick update on why I'm calling. I'm a first-time caller, and I'm calling on behalf of my son. But he lost his job with COVID after being 20 years in an environmental lab, and then spent a couple of years trying to come up with work, and then he got with the federal government. And after he got the 12-month contract with the federal government, he was requested to get the booster shot for COVID. He got the COVID shot on the end of January, I'll say, of that year. And by April the 1st, his family doctor called him and told him that we got to get you in this weekend to get you on dialysis. Your 2 kidneys have failed.
Oh, no.
And, of course, she was concerned because she said you didn't have kidney problems before. But anyway, he ended up on dialysis 3 times a week. We fought like anything to try and get the disability from the federal government for his pay. And they finally, after 6 or 8 months, they gave him that. But they cut off his benefits, no benefits. And of course, he's on Canada pension disability now, right?
Right.
But my concern is that the government stated that they were coming out with a program, vaccine injury program, where they were going to be compensating people who were injured by this vaccine. And I realized the vaccine came out sudden to assist, I suppose, in a very quick nature, to assist people who were complicated during that time, But with my son, I'm looking at his family doctor got him to apply for this vaccine program, so to see if he would get compensation. This past year and a half, this caseworker has been going back and forth with him, saying that it's still under review, and the government, from what I gather, the federal government put in $50 million or something into this program, right?
Mm-hmm.
They turned around and he got a call, and he called back, and this caseworker never called him back again. So when he called again or contacted him through email, they said, we're going to assign you a new caseworker to go on this situation. This caseworker called him back very shortly after and said, I'm sorry, but you don't qualify for any compensation on this program. And that was the end of the conversation. And I suppose my question is, the vaccine injury program was to assist somebody that was injured or sustain something from this vaccine. Mm-hmm. And if my son, who lost his kidneys and is now on dialysis 3 times a week, and he's got a young family, and it's very demanding, and his world's been turned upside down, and there's the government saying we're going to compensate people who were affected by this.
Right.
And now all of a sudden they're leaving them out in the open, so I suppose I'm wondering, do we have to go to a lawyer now to fight to get anything of this? Or is there anything, there's no class action suits or anything on to go with this, or have anybody received any money from this,
Well, first of all, I have to say it's a horrible story, and I'm really sorry that your son has gone through this. But he's fortunate to have a dad who has decided to become his advocate. This seems to become one of the themes this week, has been the importance of actually being your own advocate. To me, if everything is exactly as you say, your son sounds like the exact kind of person that this policy was actually designed for. Has there been any question raised as to whether or not his kidney troubles are linked to the vaccine or not, or is that just a given from the family doctor who had him come in April?
Well, I think the family doctor was the one who initiated the fact of saying, basically, your kidneys are gone, and we don't know why. Now, she sent him to a specialist, and he was seeing that specialist, and they were doing tests and everything else to try and find out what happened to his kidneys,
Yeah.
But by the time they got all these tests done, and as we know, with during COVID, trying to get tests and trying to get everything else, but anyway, I mean, by the time he got all this done, his kidneys were gone. Mm. And I remember my son saying to even the specialist, could this vaccine have caused that? And of course, not looking at the doctor, I understand their position too. I mean, like they said, it could have.
Yeah.
It's a new vaccine, and it wasn't into a long, I suppose, program of checking it out. And I understand all that stuff. I mean, we were in a dire straits to get something going. Mm-hmm. But when someone suffers, like my son, somewhere along the line, I kind of felt good when they said, well, they were going to have a vaccine injury program to compensate these people.
Your clock going off reminds me that I've got to move things off to the break. But I will say this: who's your member of Parliament? Who's your MP?
Do you know something, Anthony? I've contacted the MP, I've contacted the MHA, and I couldn't get off first base.
Well, I would be really persistent with that, because your MP, his or her office, their office, really, this is a federal compensation program, right, for the vaccine. It's not a provincial one.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, that to me would be.
There, and they wouldn't even entertain talking to me because they said it was to deal with the federal government and the insurance companies or whatever.
I can see the MHA's office saying that, but the constituency, the riding assistant in the MP's office should definitely be returning your calls on this. And I would call them every day until they get so irritated they've got to take your call. I mean, that's what members of Parliament are supposed to do.
This has been going on for a couple of years, and it seems like there's the only end to it is to a lawyer, and then I said that costs more money, and everything else. And
although the consultation with a lawyer might not be a bad idea. because at least then you'd be looking at what you have. But I'm sure the lawyer will tell you, listen, you've got to exhaust the other avenues first. I'm really sorry that your son is going through this, Frank, and I wish you the best of luck. And I hope you'll keep Patty updated with whatever progress you make or not. Thanks for your call and good luck.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Whew, wow, well, the story sounds as though it's the exact policy that somebody that he should qualify for, at least in terms of what Frank had to share. You're listening to Open Line. Back after the break. Welcome back. Let's go to Marystown, where Sam Senior joins me now on the line. Sam, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Anthony. How are you doing?
Very well, sir. Good to hear your voice again.
Nice to talk to you again as well. I wanted to call. There's been some traction on your show this week and Petty's show the last number of weeks from residents in this area concerning the lack of work at the shipyard and at the Calhead site. And I guess the local regional economy has never been weaker in many ways. There's no work at either site, really. And so I just want to add my voice to it. And there's all kinds of twists and turns here. When people call in, of course, they're concerned about the lack of employment and what it does to the fiber optic community. And rightly so. But there's other twists here as well. There's an interesting story now on CBC that you may have come across, CBC Radio Television. The Canada Infrastructure Bank, a federal, basically quasi-crown corporation, an independent quasi-crown organization, recently only a month ago, provided a $1 billion loan guarantee to the BC Ferries to build 4 new vessels. And they're comparable to the vessels that go across the straits here, of course, from Newfoundland to Nova Scotia. But the twist is the vessels are going to be built in China. So there's quite a debate raging now in British Columbia, and it's also going to be looked at in Ottawa and I guess committee structure meetings about should we be using federal institutions, Canadian institutions, i.e. in this case, the Canada Infrastructure Bank, to fund projects that are being built in other countries. And in this case, maybe even worse, they're built in China, which we have some concerns with, espionage, technology, privacy issues, and so on. So this is another twist to this conversation that people had with you this week. But there should be work at the Marystown shipyard, there should be work at Calhead. It's terrible, it does not work. We can all say that. But can we find innovative ways to look at what's out there to support industry in Canada? And the Canada Infrastructure Bank has almost $17 billion in funds that they're trying to disperse to industry across the country. I think this is the first time that they've actually supported a project where the project itself will not be built in Canada, but rather in China.
Right. Well, I have no doubt that's going to get a lot of scrutiny, and Carney and Company will take a fair bit of heat over that. I don't know the specifics of BC and what kind of vessels they want, but in terms of trying to maximize whatever potential there is with this infrastructure bank for Marystown and your area and basically the Burin Peninsula, what capacity would the shipyards offer in terms of what, like Carney said, that they want to increase defense spending? Are there smaller vessels or components that might be something that Marystown can get involved with? I don't know, in conjunction with the Irvings and Halifax, or what are you thinking?
Well, no, I think you have to build capacity. So the question is, what comes first? So do you build capacity and then get contracts? Do you get contracts and build capacity? That's been an age-old discussion in the shipbuilding industry and the ship, the whole for decades. Yeah. But the question here is that the BC Ferries, which is a privately run company, by the way, it's not a Crown Corporation, unlike Marine Atlantic, which is the Crown Corporation. The BC Ferries people are saying, no, we had to go to China to get the vessels built because we have no capacity in Canada. And so right now, Seaspan, the major shipbuilder on the west coast of the country in British Columbia, is tied up with the Navy projects. Fast come across the country to Halifax. Halifax is tied up with the shipbuilding Navy contracts as well. So it sort of opens the door now for everybody, private industry, even government contracts, to say, we can't build anything in Canada anymore because we don't have capacity. So right now we're sort of blocked on the west coast by Seaspan with their work for the federal government, east coast Irvings. But there's hundreds and hundreds of vessels required in this country every single year. And so if we put our hands in the air and our head in the sand, we'll never have any capacity.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was just called up with the story because I basically skimmed it. Now I'm taking a better look while we're talking, and I guess this is not a done deal, right? The Transport Committee is taking a look at this. Is it your sense that this is going to happen, or what do you think?
this was a done deal, completely a done deal. It was actually advertised on the Canada Infrastructure Bank website saying, "Oh, please be advised, we are providing a $1 billion loan guarantee to the BC Ferries," and they identified where the money was going to go. So much for infrastructure. $780 million of that loan was going to go to building 4 larger vessels in China.
Yeah.
So they were quite out there. There's no way they can say, "Oh, this is not a done deal." When you put it on your website and you take credit for it, you're sort of in their mind it's a done deal.
Yeah, and it's interesting on the federal scene because there's been so much change of late that the infrastructure minister is actually Grigor Robertson, and well, you've been involved in municipal politics. I think even Mayor of Vancouver. I can't imagine this is going over terribly well on the West Coast. But I'm trying to think what would happen here if we said we were going to get a loan from the federal government to commission ferries to be built in the province, but oh no, we're going to have these ferries built in China. Mind you, we have had ferries built in other places here. It doesn't have to be China; it could be Romania or other places. So I guess it has to do with the actual size of the vessel and shipyard capacity. But getting back to what matters to you in Marystown, what would you like to see happen?
Well, I think we got to put our heads together and come up with some capacity. And i.e., if there's a $1 billion loan out there that says we're going to put almost $300 million of that into creating infrastructure, and the rest will go towards shipbuilding, then there's obviously a need in this country for another shipbuilding footprint. Obviously, if you look at Seaspan in British Columbia, you look at the Irving shipyards in Halifax. If that's the only capacity we have, and there's some capacity in Quebec as well, the Davie shipyard. Yeah. But other than that, so it's obvious going forward, we need more capacity, and we need government support to build capacity. Because government jobs, like government's position, as you would know, and I know, most of your listeners would know, government doesn't create industry per se. They shouldn't be creating industry probably, but government should be setting the environment so industry can work, right? Mm-hmm. So it's all about regulation. So if the regulation is to BC Ferries, for example, yes, through the Canada Infrastructure Bank, we will provide you with a $1 billion loan, and we'll think that's a wonderful thing, on the condition that the ships be built in Canada. Yeah. Because today is August 1st. CNN today, Fox News today, the only story in CNN today is the tariffs. Yeah. So as walls go up around the world, unfortunately, like walls go up, and the walls have gone up big time since Mr. Trump came back into power only a number of months ago. So we have to put our walls up as well. And so if our walls means building walls around the shipbuilding industry, that's what we need to do. Well, I notice I don't think we live in a world anymore, but there's no walls. The walls are going up everywhere.
No question. I noticed one of Carney's first reactions to when Trump came in with 35% last night was to say that he's going to focus on getting Canadians and putting them to work, and maybe shipyards are part of that solution.
Well, it's a huge industry. Shipbuilding has always been a huge industry, and we built ships in Marystown since the mid-'60s, actually the latter part of the '60s, all Cadillac vessels. And the ones that you referenced a moment ago that were built in Romania, I was active at that time in different things, and the ones that were built overseas in Romania at the Damen shipyards were nightmares. They're still nightmares. They don't work. Mm. The ships that were built in Marystown, Newfoundland, are still chugging along. Some 50 years later. We do great work here. But you need government regulations and government policy to support work.
Yeah, and I think MHAs and MPs of all stripes need to listen to what you're saying and get their hands out for the Infrastructure Bank and get Mark Carney to put people to work. Listen, Sam, I got to get to the news, but it's really good to hear from you as always. I wish you the best. Hope you have a great weekend.
Teddy, could I sneak in one more quick comment?
Very quick. You got 10 seconds.
Okay, earlier in the week you referenced that the people involved with the Canada Summer Games were not going to get uniforms and so on and so forth. I chaired the 2004.
Got to go for the news, Sam. We all had, got to go. It's time for the news. I apologize.
Okay, I'll go.
Okay.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
Okay, the final hour of the show for this Friday, the very first day of August. Here we are, July gone, September only a month away. It'll be back to school time before you know it. In fact, I know already, speaking with Russell Bowers, lots of plans, activities for that with VOCM as well. I'm going to wait a bit before I get my mind around that, as I'm sure a lot of teachers are doing. I'll give out the phone numbers one more time. Here in St. John, 709-273-5211. Hey, if you want to talk about back to school, I know it's early. Wouldn't mind that either. Toll free. 1-888-590-8626. Going to go to line 5. Sean, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Anthony. How are you?
I am fantastic. You?
I'm really good, thanks. What
Excellent.
a beautiful summer, starting in the 1st of May, and it's still going strong.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing summer.
Excellent. Now, what do you want to talk about?
It's your salmon. Well, first of all, I'm sorry you probably didn't enjoy the salmon fishing this year because there's not much going on with the river so warm.
Oh, I actually had probably one of the best years of my life.
Really?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
good for you.
I made it to the pinware. And fortunately, there were the two local guys who were very helpful, and it was fantastic. So I don't want to brag, so I'll just leave it at that. But you know,
the big horse flies didn't eat you alive.
Listen, the flies. That's a whole other story. All of the legends are true. They were awful. Yeah, terrible.
I used to take my father up there. We went up there twice, and that was all. Enough is enough. We'll go back on the other rivers, Lomond and others.
You have to suffer to find the fish, though.
You do.
Yeah.
So look, first of all, to that tractor trailer guy with a big long trailer on the end that pulled out from the Irving and Whitburn, you almost wiped out 3 or 4 cars who had to make evasive maneuvers and slam on their brakes not to get all in the middle of a big crash there. And I was in the middle of it. I couldn't believe what.
When that happened?
Just now.
Oh.
I'm pulled in on the side of the road. The guy doesn't even have any markings on the big white long trailer. There's no markings on the red tractor trailer he's driving on.
Was this near Goobies?
No, this is a Whitburn.
Oh.
Terrible spot. The place is on wheels this morning, pardon the pun.
Friday.
And there's so many tourists and people coming in and out of the Irving there, and people coming down into the Irving, crossing the Argentia, turn off to to Argentia, and they were coming down maybe 70 or 80 kilometers an hour. Didn't realize that this guy was going to pull out. He just took us all out. It was just awful.
Well, I'm glad you're on the line and that no one was hurt, even if the guy was a bit of a dolt. What do you want to talk about?
Well, there's 2 things. Number one, I've had some fabulous guests here in the last week for a couple of days, and I had to warn them of a few things when they got here. And I shouldn't be doing this. We should have it out there for the tourists that are coming here. So everyone out there who's got family members coming home, haven't been home in a long time, or they aren't driving our highways, we don't have signs out there that say scan 24/7 for moose. And have the biggest moose. You remember the moose we used to have as you entered into Terra Nova National Park?
Oh, yeah.
And everyone thought it was real. Well, we need that back on the highways again because we just lost a beautiful 19-year-old young man just a few weeks ago, and there have been 2 more really bad accidents, young people in them. Since then, I don't know how they're doing, but my heart goes out to their families and their friends. We don't think about moose in the daytime. It's such a nice day. We don't think, or evenings. We don't think about them in the evenings, Anthony. But you just spent the better part of a couple of months out there, going all over the Trans-Canada highways and every byway out there, running for your election bid. And congratulations, by the way. But lots of great people out there didn't make it the first time, as close as you came. I would personally love to see you in the Parliament.
Oh, I appreciate it. I mean, I saw three moose in the first 2 days of the campaign. Actually, mostly one near Placentia and the other 2 on the Buren Highway. But yeah, lack of signs. It's funny you mentioned those moose signs. I remember first seeing those. I don't know, 30 years ago or so. They scared me, and I'm one of the, I try not to drive at night, ever. But I remember the first time the headlights hit that, I think it certainly got my attention, and I slowed down.
We need attention out there in a lot of ways. Again, just let me give you another one, and that's a big one. That's probably one of the biggest. Once we injure anyone because of silly moose accidents like that, it's a lifetime thing. You're always battling that health issue. Even if you're just scared to death or you've got the biggest fright of your life and you're afraid to get on the highway and go to work even, it's a really bad thing. But the other one was I brought them down to the beautiful Middle Cove, Outer Cove area and Torbay area as well. And we went down to Middle Cove and there were a whole bunch of kids playing down there late in the evening. Still daylight. And I said to my friends, I said, there's all the things on that sign that we should be aware of, And it didn't have the rogue waves. Now, you remember when we lost a couple of Coast Guard people whose rescue craft trying to save a couple of people that were on their or a scuba diver. Yeah. Well, they didn't have scuba diving equipment on. They were skimming, I guess they call it, going out and just playing around down there. And there's a big undertow there. And when a big rogue wave comes in, you know, the chances of you grabbing onto your kids when they're on the other side of the beach, maybe 50 meters away, and trying to get to them, and you don't even realize it's happening because there's no warning, you know. Maybe we need a warning, some kind of an alarm or something that'll let them know that it's coming, and probably from fisheries and oceans, maybe to put some kind of technology.
Well, the problem,
there.
that's the problem, right? Because rogue waves are called rogue for a reason. I'm actually related to someone who was swept out to sea at Middle Cove. I think it's pretty terrifying. But yeah, I think there are signs there, though, warning people a bit like a Cape Spear too, aren't there?
I didn't see them, and there's definitely not one at Middle Cove because we look for it. And if you got to look for it, the sign is no good.
Fair enough. I thought there was a sign right at the entrance there before you go down the wooden step onto the sand, but I could be wrong.
No, there's no sign there for that. It just has a whole list of other things that aren't near as important as a rogue wave in my books.
All right, but you're right. People, there needs to be signs for moose and for rogue waves. You're correct. I want to move things along, but do you have something else you want to add quickly? Yeah,
one last thing, and this is really, really important. We've got upwards of 10 or 15,000 people going to be around here for the next 3 or 4 weeks with the Canada Games going on. But we always have a lot of people coming here, and the first place to go is downtown. Go down to George Street and all that, and of course the festival's on this week, all week.
Yep.
You know, like I had to warn my friends too, look, because they came on one of the cruise ships, right?
Yeah.
And I said, look, whatever you do, you got to watch your back. This is a very dangerous area at night. There's a lot of people out on bail and out on bond. You really got to watch your back, and don't be out past 11 or 12 because, you know, it's just not safe down there. I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to do it. We should have beat cops down on the beat, you know, two together, so at least they have protection between them. And we should have them on the street. You don't see the stuff driving by in cars, and there's so much activity down there.
Fair enough.
But if you're on the... Yeah.
I suspect with that, you know, the kind of crowds we're going to have, there will be a police presence of some kind. But no, it's just common sense. Whenever you got large crowds, there will be crimes of opportunity will be pursued. So it's those are good heads up, Sean. Appreciate that. Good to hear from you. Take it easy.
Last word. They told me they would never have thought of it in St. John's. It's such a fabulous place. They'd never even think about it. In other cities they would, but not in St. John's.
Okay, very good, sir. Have a great day.
Okay, take care of yourself. Good hearing your voice.
All right, nice talking to you, Sean. Okay, so some warnings there about what may or may not happen. I'm going to try to get one caller in before we get to the break. Let's go to line 3. Jeff, good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Anthony. I'm a long-time avid open line listener, and I was surprised when you were filling in, but I have to say you did a really great job. I guess it's like riding a bike.
Yeah, or speaking to people. But I appreciate that, Jeff. I understand you actually have something positive to say, which I could really use.
Positive? I don't know how positive. It's neutral, I think. But
okay.
I've been listening to you since you were on the morning show on CBC. I followed you right when you were an anchor on the news, and then you moved off, of course, from the public life, and you have an interesting career, so I thought I'd take the opportunity to ask you a few questions.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, well, the first question I have is, how different is this job, the open line job, to your former radio job?
Not much different at all, to be honest. I think the power of radio, and the experts have been predicting radio would be dead for actually since the advent of television in the late 30s. Local radio, you know, I've worked as a national foreign correspondent kind of person, and there's a lot of prestige that goes with that job, but you never have the same connection as you do in local radio. So whether it's, VOCM, CBC, or whoever it is, there's something about local radio. It really is like when I'm listening, I always feel like I've got, a friend sitting in my kitchen. So the local part, there's no difference at all.
I agree. I think local and live, those two together are very special.
Yeah.
The second question I had for you was, so you moved from the morning show, and then you were on TV as an anchor. And I remember one specific piece that you did that was, I thought, very great, where you put a human face to addictions. Mm-hmm. And that was during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So you're having you're really killing it on TV after you kill it on the radio. Did a great job on the radio. I love that show. And then you decide to go and pursue education.
Yep.
So that there is a big shift. I just wondered what what the thought process was, or what made you move in that direction.
Okay, I'm more than happy to answer that.
180.
Yeah, it is, but I'll tell you that, and then I'm going to have to go to the break after I answer this, but I appreciate the opportunity, although I'm always nervous when the interviewer gets flipped around, so you're very crafty. If you haven't considered a career in this, maybe you should. So, but very, very quickly, so what happened was I knew that I would try to leave broadcasting to go into teaching, because when I was a teenager, I could have gone down two roads. And I was probably leaning towards a darker road, and I had a teacher who really helped me, and they made a big difference in my life, and I thought, you know what, I'd like to be that teacher for somebody. Full disclosure, I thought my wife and I might move to some place where they drink drinks out of pineapples in the winter, and we would come back to Newfoundland and stay on the Eastport Peninsula like a perfect life. And then COVID intervened and destroyed the plan because nobody was hiring Canadian teachers. But I really like education. There's a kind of a satisfaction you get when you see a light bulb go on in like a young person's head. And you can make a lot of money in different businesses and different jobs, but only teachers, I think, can get that feeling of, I actually saw the lights go on about something that this young person didn't know about before that they now know about. And even better, if you can make young people feel good about themselves and encourage them and motivate them, and you can see it working, there's just nothing better. And with that, Jeff, I've got to go.
It's a great story there. I appreciate it. I have two follow-up questions, but I'll have to get them the next time you fill it.
Yes, well, hopefully there will be a next time, but I appreciate the call, Jeff. Thank you. All right, that's Jeff grilling me instead of letting me grill him. A little bit of role reversal. It's not a bad thing to do, though, as far as things go. We're going to go to a break now, and after that, we'll talk to Mike Russell, a candidate at large in St. John's. Got municipal elections coming up. Stay tuned. Welcome back. All right, let's go right to line 2. Miles Russell joins me now. Miles, you're on the air. We want to talk about municipal politics, I gather. How are you?
Thanks for hosting the radio there this morning, Anthony. Love hearing you on there as well, in a different venue than what you normally hear you. Today I want to talk about positive. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's more just kind of talking to the public about an interesting thing that a lot of people might overlook, which is third places. Not sure if you're familiar with the term. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with the? Yeah, are you familiar with the term third place?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's something interesting that in a lot of we're a cold climate city. Not exactly the coldest. We're not Montreal or Calgary or anything, but we do have cold winters. And there's one thing that I hear from a lot of people who are have limitations in their ability to get around the city in the winter, and that's we have no indoor third places that are readily accessible. So we have malls and coffee shops and things like that. Those are perfectly fine third places, but their function is commerce driven. They're not built around recreation or even just relaxation or just being social.
Yeah, the idea here is like a place that's not home and not work, right? A separate place.
Exactly, yeah. So, for the listeners, I guess, yes, you're right. To define it, a third place, it's simply not work and not home. Mm-hmm. So anywhere outdoors can be a third place, but generally speaking, it's somewhere that is meant for not the two functions of being home and being at work. So, coffee shops are a big one, and, being in the mall is a big one. Also lobbies, like at the Paul Reynolds Center and the new Muse Center. Mm-hmm. But what we don't have in St. John's that we do have in other Canadian cities are indoor actual parks. So like an outdoor park like Bannerman or, Bowering Park, amazing parks, lovely to be around in the summer. But in the winter, basically, there's a couple specific things, let's say the Loop at Bannerman, but other than that, we don't really have a lot of places for activity indoors. And, like St. John's could say to the Avalon Mall, would you guys like to, sponsor a walk or like some form of event inside? But there's no real motivation for that. Yeah. And, St. John's has I think, a good need for this. Because, again, talking to residents, especially in the downtown area, there's really no indoor spaces anymore. Atlantic Place has kind of collapsed down what used to be a much larger space to a much smaller place. They closed the doors earlier now. That wasn't really a park, and again, it's inside a federal building or a private building that has federal and provincial functions. So it's something that's interesting because these are good places for people to socialize, and it's something that we're really lacking. Especially in, let's say, we're having a a crisis for people's loneliness and things like this.
True, and also it's not like for certain people who have accessibility issues, and I'm not just talking about people with physical disabilities, but even seniors who don't want to take a chance when it's icy out, and they end up spending more time at home. And we've heard about there being an epidemic of loneliness. So I'm kind of intrigued. But the thing is, Mike, so like in a bigger city like a Montreal or a Toronto or Calgary, you've got almost these sort of underground cities within the city that have all kinds of places you can go, and you don't even have to step outside. What would you like to see in St. John's, given the fact that you're a candidate in the municipal election?
Well, I mean, there's lots of places we do have. So, we have a little tiny network downtown that's connecting Mile 1 and a couple of buildings down there. I mean, City Hall has a pretty large space on the second floor. It's it's a very brutalist building. But, a space like that could be left open longer and actually put maybe some playground infrastructure in it. But even still, Anthony, there's lots of low-value buildings that the city could acquire, because there's another function that's kind of more neat, is having an Avalon Mall that's fully private has the restriction of it being commerce-driven. But if City St. John said, we're going to buy a largest building in town somewhere, but we're going to have private vendors on the sides, on like a farmer's market, but have the main function of the park be, an indoor dog park, indoor playground, just an indoor area with maybe some, artificial trees or something like that.
Yeah.
And have that around a transit hub, let's say around the Village Mall. These kind of things, being in a couple cities around Canada and seeing, again, there's not a lot of these types of venues, but St. John's has none whatsoever. So, again, like the inside the Paul Reynolds Centre, it's nice, or the Mew Centre lobby, but once it gets a little dark or the operations aren't running normally, they close down.
Right.
So it's kind of again, it seems like an odd thing to talk about, but it's really needed, and especially for things even, Anthony, like arts, having little shows, maybe little pop-ups, even little tiny vendors pop in, and you can sell hot dogs.
Yeah.
It's just the same. We have a downtown core that for a couple months of the year now with the pedestrian mall works well, but then again, once winter hits, it's
good point.
Kind of a crapshoot.
All right, third places. I like the idea. Miles, thanks for calling in.
Thanks much, Anthony. Cheers.
All right, that's Miles Russell. Let's get one call in before we get to the break. Talking about socializing. Let's do some socializing right now on the West Coast in Stephenville. Dave on line 5, you're on the air. Hello.
Andy Germain, my son, I listened to you when you were at CBC. You always had a wonderful voice, and you're doing a wonderful job taking over from Patty.
Thank you. I wouldn't say taking over, just replacing him for a mere 5 days. Yeah. Let's be clear.
You had a voice for TV, and you still got it, boy, I got to say.
Well, thank you. So tell me about this. Tell me about this garden party.
Yeah. Anyhow, I'd like to say that we would like, as a public service announcement, that the beautiful Garden of Hope in Stephenville behind the Sir Thomas Roddick Hospital, and it's called the Cancer Care Foundation, we will be having our annual garden party on Sunday, August the 3rd, from 2 to 4. If it rains, it will be go ahead on the next Sunday. We will have music and all kinds of prizes to give away. There will be lots of water and snack foods. And we're asking all the women to wear a hat. There will be a prize for the best hat. On Sunday, on August the 3rd, just follow the pink balloons on the way to the Sir Thomas Roddick Hospital in Stephenville. It will take you to the back of the hospital where the Garden of Hope is located. Lots of parking. And we'll hope to see all our good friends there.
That sounds great. So listen, so you want all the women to wear hats like the Fascinators and those big fancy hats for garden parties, right?
Yeah. Right
so
on.
So if I drive to the West Coast and I show up in my legendary top hat, can I enter the contest?
Boy, you sure men can wear a hat too if they want to. Because myself, Dave Kane, and Rosie Keats, we're volunteers. This is our 5th year looking after the garden, and it's beautiful. Beautiful, the flowers.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Stephenville this time of year, West Coast, hard to beat.
And this year we even got one fence done with kids' boots, and they're all planted with flowers. And it's in aid of the kids and a friend of ours who passed away last year, Phyllis Young. So we did that this year.
Well, it sounds absolutely lovely, Dave. And listen, I hope the weather, I know tomorrow doesn't look great in some places. I'm not sure about the forecast for Stephen. I think it's okay on Sunday, but I hope you have a great time and appreciate you calling in and letting people. So Sunday, 2 to 4 behind the hospital.
Yeah, right on, and nice talking to you again. I listen to the show every morning, even when Patty's on. And if I don't get it in the morning, I listen to nighttime.
Okay, well, you're resourceful. Thanks, Dave. Have a great weekend and good luck at the garden party.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks to your producer there.
Okay, Dave. Yeah, all right.
Dave,
All right.
He knows me. All right, thank you.
Okay, so long. So Sunday, 2 to 4 in Stephenville, a big garden party right behind the hospital. I'm Anthony Germain filling in for Patty Daly. I'll be back in about 5 minutes.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. You know you're getting old when you hear your students reading the news, throwing to you, as we say in the biz. My only regret this week, I didn't get Sarah in here to talk about the Jays, because I remember as her teacher, she knows a lot about that team, and that's a team to watch. So it's been a pleasure working with Sarah this week. Okay, let's go to line one. Bill, you are on the air. Hello. Bill. Okay, Bill, are you there? Okay, I guess the gremlins have decided to visit me here on the final day. We'll see if we can reconnect with Bill, but until then, let's get Jim on line 3. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Anthony. How are you?
I'm excellent. So where are you calling from?
You know what? I'm actually calling from Pearson Airport in Toronto.
Okay.
Just to say hi.
Yeah.
But I'd like everyone to know that something called the Spinning Wheels Tour for Parkinson's awareness is coming to Newfoundland, to Gander specifically. That's where I'm waiting to fly into. My flight was delayed for 6 hours, so I get the chance to talk to you.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we're just the Spinning Wheels Tour. Like I said, it starts in Gander on Sunday, and my friend and I will be cycling from Gander to St. John's as part of the Eastern team. While that happens, another group will be in Victoria, British Columbia, and they'll start cycling west, and we'll meet in September in Toronto. But so we're 6 days in Newfoundland. We'll be in St. John's on the 8th of August, and we'd like people to come on out and join us if they would, or get in touch with the Parkinson's Society of Newfoundland and Labrador, or go to Parkinson Canada and type in Spinning Wheels Tour. We're trying to raise awareness about what is the fastest growing neurological condition in the world, and nowhere is it growing faster than Canada. So it's important. It's not really a fundraising thing. We really are trying to spread the word about Parkinson's and the benefit of community and exercise. And this is our third year doing it, third year going across the country, and I'm very excited to get it back to Newfoundland.
Okay, perfect. So this is tomorrow in Gander, right?
Yeah, I'll hopefully get there today sometime.
Yeah, well, I hope you're not left. I hope you're not left spinning your wheels in Pearson for too long. But I have no doubt you will get here. But welcome to your first or your repeated Newfoundland travel experience. This is known to happen.
This is known to happen, yes. So I got here 4.5 hours early for my flight because my cycling companion had to get out a little bit earlier, and then I was informed I had a 4.5 hour delay. So I'll be at Pearson for 9 hours, and I'll be ready to stretch my legs by the time I get to Gander and get on my bike.
No doubt. Okay, well, obviously Parkinson's a very good cause. It's very important. Safe travels, and thanks a lot for calling, Jim. All the best. Have a great weekend. Have a great event tomorrow in Gander.
Okay, thanks, Anthony. Appreciate that.
All right, Jim Redmond, stranded at Pearson International. Okay, let's go to line 1. Good morning. You are on the air. Hello.
Good morning. I was mistaken for Bill.
I'm sorry about that.
No worries. I didn't give the name Bill. It was just a snafu. But I'll just remain Mr. Caller.
Okay, that's fine. What's on your mind, caller?
Yeah. Well, great show, Anthony, the whole week. I particularly like the debate and discussion on the Labrador and the fixed link.
Yeah, me too.
Great. I think it's just like, let's do it. If you look at Labrador and how, between the indigenous injustice, if you could call it, the resources that it has, the potential to open it up even greater, and the cost of doing it versus what Labrador is contributing to the Treasury and the whole island, just do it, right?
Yeah.
No more talk about it.
And I would say, if I could just add there, I would say right now, if you're a member of Parliament, and really I honestly don't care if you're red, blue, orange, green, I won't include the bloc, but I think this would be the perfect time to call the Prime Minister, especially after what Mr. Trump has done again, and say, look, you're looking for nation-building projects. I can't think of anything that is more nation-building than an infrastructure project that will connect to a highway through the island of Newfoundland to Labrador and then connect up through a highway of Quebec that actually gets to the rest of Canada. I mean, to me, it's got everything that I think Mark Carney is looking for.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. The other, and I will be calling. I did hear Mr. MP Earl?
Yeah, Philip Earl. Philip Earl. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my contact then. The other item, I was listening to Jeff earlier talking about asking various questions and that. And I don't want to spoil your day, and you don't even have to speak about it if you don't want to.
Yeah.
With the recount and the election itself, were you were very close to winning in the Donna Vista Peninsula's riding?
Yes.
Yeah. So
the Terra Nova of the Peninsulas. Yeah.
Terra Nova Peninsula. Sorry.
Yeah.
I watched it very closely, as did many people, even across Canada, because there was a bunch of recounts that could have changed the swing in the government from a minority to majority by a whisker type of thing.
Yeah.
But in any event, with the high number of spoiled ballots, I think is it Sarah Smelly that writes for?
Yeah, CP. I actually mentioned her today because of her story about a housing project. Yeah.
Yeah, up in West Valley, I think, up that way.
Yeah, in the riding.
So, yep. Yeah, there you go. You're all for it. Yeah. So, anyways, she did a story on the recount, as did other people, and so I just had it in my mind, like, what's going on here? So I actually sent her an email, and I just said to her, I said, "Sir, do you think is this a literacy thing? With this huge amount, like, I can't imagine. Now, there could be many reasons for the spoiled ballot.
Yeah.
That there would be like 5% of the ballots would be spoiled. I know this is, and from your perspective, or the winner, let's just say that it was a literacy thing.
Well, I don't know if I would say a literacy thing, but I would say perhaps. There needs to be a better education in some ways. I mean, I will tell you, and listen, I congratulate my victorious opponent, Jonathan Rowe of the Conservatives, and I salute anybody who actually decides to throw their hat in the ring. And I don't want to make it sound, I don't want to make it sound like sour grapes, but a couple hundred votes that were, I would say objectively, that were clearly intended for me were discounted. And there's a distinction between spoiled ballots and rejected ballots. And the federal law on it is very, very clear. And that is, I think it's the language is something like the elector shall place their mark inside the circle. But there were several hundred ballots where voters put their X to the left of my name, or to the left of Jonathan's name. And I had a couple hundred more of these than Jonathan did. So when the judge, in his wisdom, decided to throw all these out, I mean, I would argue.
And he was just following the act, right? He was just following the election.
Provincially, though, I'm convinced those votes would have counted and the result would be different. But that's essentially what happened. And
I suspected that.
That's the way it goes. And to be honest, the election turned into a coin toss in some ways, and things happen for a reason. And if I was the MP, I wouldn't be able to host Open Line, I don't think.
Well, anyways, it's going to be difficult to find a substitute like yourself. You did a great job. But just quickly back to the election.
Yeah.
So I just hope there's some action on it in terms of. I guess maybe my word is a little too harsh by saying maybe what word did I use?
Literacy.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll drop that. I'll drop that.
No. I understand what you're saying. I'm just thinking it's not quite literacy. Although in some cases you never know. But I'll tell you that
completely frame the issue.
There's a very simple solution that would make it much easier for the voters' intention to be absolutely clear, and that is, and I think there's some ambiguity with the provincial ballot and a federal ballot, where some people thought,
they're quite different.
And so an X to the left. There you go. But if the ballot were completely black, and the text of the name, so whether it's Anthony Germain, white circle to the right, Anthony Germain in white, Jonathan Rowe, white name, white circle, you would not have any place with a pencil where you could mark anywhere except in the circle. And in those jurisdictions that have those, they don't have the same number of rejected ballots, right? So, and on that point, and here's one thing that, and I'll have to go after this, but so a spoiled ballot is when you go back there and you're marking, you go, oh no, I made a mistake for whatever reason, and you tell the people, hey, I kind of screwed up. Can I get another ballot? And then they will take that ballot, a spoiled ballot, and put it in an envelope that will be sealed and will not get open unless there's a really good reason to open it. A rejected ballot is one where someone draws, puts some profanity on the ballot, doesn't do that kind of thing, and those turn into rejects. But the rejected,
you just deface the ballot.
And there was another recount in Markham which had 80,000 or almost 80,000 voters, and it had half as many rejected ballots as Terra Nova, the Peninsulas. But we're getting into the weeds here. But I really appreciate your call.
Oh, you're welcome. Just one quick. Sarah didn't get back to me, so I said, why don't you chase down some of the local voters out there and just see if they had their ear to the ground on how they might have voted. And she said, do you know anybody? I said, I do know a couple, but I know that they voted. They ticked the circle, right?
Yeah.
But she did a subsequent story on a lady who was like probably 60 or took her dad who's like in his 80s to the poll and helped him out a bit. And I know you can get assistance at the poll in terms of what to do at the ballot box, because I know I had a family member who had a disability and used to go and vote all the time.
Yeah.
And, he voted for who he wanted to vote for. Anyways, great show.
Okay.
Thanks for taking my call.
I appreciate you calling. Have a great weekend.
You too. Take care.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we're going to turn to the last break before wind things down for this Friday, August the 1st. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Winding things down now on this Friday, about to head into the weekend. Let's go to line 6, and we'll head back to the Southwest Coast. Michael King, Liberal candidate for Burgeo-Lapoille. Welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks, Anthony, for taking my call. It's certainly a beautiful day here in Port aux Basques, as well as they gear up for their Astrolabe Festival happening here all weekend. So it's an exciting weekend on deck here, too.
So what's the festival?
It's the Astrolabe Festival.
Oh, excellent. Good. So what are you going to be doing?
Yeah. So there's a lot of events happening around Port aux Basques at the museum, stuff for kids. There's a big concert here tomorrow night on the ball field. So it's a lot of exciting activity happening here.
Excellent. Now, as I've mentioned a couple of times this week, because people have raised questions, even today, about decisions to run for politics, you have made the decision to throw your hat into the ring, and I respect anybody, Liberal, Conservative, New Democrat, Green, Independent. What made you take the plunge?
Yeah, no, certainly. And first of all, before I get into that, I just want to give a big thank you to former MHA Andrew Parsons, who represented this district for over 14 years. He obviously didn't reoffer this time, but has served this district very well. So I want to thank him for that. And, for me, it's been something I think that's been coming a long time. It was probably the worst kept secret to a lot of my friends and family. I've been involved in politics for over a decade, working, as the constituency assistant to the MHA for St. John's West. I was the executive director for the Liberal Party of Newfoundland and Labrador, special advisor to Premier Fury, and most recently the executive assistant to Minister Andrew Parsons. So I've been working in this field for a long time.
Yeah.
Advocacy, volunteering, public service has been a part of my life for a long time, ever since back in high school, supporting my community where I can. So I think, this is the next step in my career to provide that advocacy for rural Newfoundland and Labrador, especially at the table.
Okay. Do you have any concerns that this recent story about ministers trying to get bonuses for themselves, that the Premier had to intervene, any concerns that might hurt you once the campaign gets a little more real?
No, I think, Premier Hogan made a quick decision on that, and I think it was the appropriate decision on that matter for sure.
Okay. What are your priorities as the potential MHA out there? What do you see as the main issue for your district?
Yeah, my district spans in the Burgeo, Ramia, Grey River area up to the Port aux Basques and surrounding Southwest Coast area. So there's a lot of, different communities, small rural communities, infrastructure, tourism, the fishery. There's still a lot of opportunities around here. So, I want to work with the towns and the people in the communities directly to make sure we expand on those opportunities. This time of year, as we mentioned, the summertime, tourism here is very big. Marine Atlantic, the gateway to Newfoundland and Labrador, is right here. There's a lot of folks that get off the ferry that travel to other parts of the island, but we want to make sure they travel to, areas down the Southwest Coast on Route 470. One of the things I think I mentioned on your call before, too, as well as road work. Our roads certainly need some work on Route 470, specifically down the coast to Rose Blanche.
Yeah.
I'm aware there's a petition obviously circulating around that. I think there was a caller on your show a little while back, and that's certainly something, if elected as their MHA, that I'll be advocating for sure.
Okay. Michael, I got a text from a mutual friend who says they hope that your chess game has improved. With that, I will say goodbye. I hope you have a great weekend and enjoy the festival in Port aux Basques.
Thanks, Anthony, and you can let her know I'm getting better at that for sure.
Okay, goodbye. It's Michael King, Liberal candidate, Burgeo, Lapoile. All right, I think we've got time for one more call before we wind things down. I'll go to line 2 and welcome Corona Brophy. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, and you're doing a wonderful job, Anthony, and congratulations on all the work you've done with your campaign and your teaching. It's just great.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're great. So I want to get to the point because I know you only have a few minutes, but I've been advocating for that Whitburn area for about 10 years. With the lack of signage, number one, they have a sign at the beginning of Whitburn intersection and one at the end. Nothing really in between, and I've said it to many people. There's going to be a major accident there one day.
Can you just locate me exactly where in Whitburn we're talking about here? Yeah.
Okay, it's on the TCH, so Monty's.
Yeah.
The famous Monty's, right up to where A&W is now. On the turn there when you go into Route 100, if you're going to like Placentia Junction or anything. So between that, there's probably about, I would say, 15 businesses there. And there are over 300 employees working in that area, just that one section of highway. And people are speeding. The other day I was in Nadora, the gift shop there, and the lady said, just watch. And this transport truck came down. He must have been doing about 120 in a 70 zone. And people were darting out these businesses onto the highway. Yeah. And there's going to be something major. I spoke to a gentleman at the Department of Highways a few years ago, Jim Durnford, and he basically told me that there was nothing they could do. I said, you need to put up signage. You need to put up these flashing lights about speed. There is a bridge that goes over to Highway 80 and 81, Blaketown and Whitburn. And they could easily put a sign on the bridge there on both sides because legally there is a 70 zone, either a half a kilometer or a kilometer before you get to this Whitburn area and after. So you'll see the 70 sign after, but people are going 100, 120 all the way.
And I have to say, as someone who drives through there very, very frequently, sometimes I find, yours truly kind of, I'm not supposed to be going this fast in this zone. So I hear what you're saying. And I'm glad you're shining a spotlight on it. Can I just ask you one quick question? Because we've only got a minute left.
Yes.
Are you doing a lot of Celtic fiddling this summer? What have you been up to?
We are. We're doing kind of our own things. We're doing some recording, and we had a wedding within the group. Our Jamie Moran, our guitarist, got married a few weeks ago.
Okay.
So that's all grand.
I hope you gave him a good price on the music.
It was a gift.
The wedding gift.
And of course, then we got two others that they're in Nova Scotia right now. So we're back and forth. Then we're doing a tour, Eastport, Newtown, and Gander in the middle of August.
Excellent.
Yeah,
I'll be down there. Drop by for a beverage.
Okay.
All right.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Well, anyway, thank you. I hope we can get something done. I don't know what else to do. I've been advocating for that And if you're driving through Whitburn right now, look at your speed. You should be doing 70 with all these businesses, please, and the other thing.
I hope Mayor Hilda is listening, but I got to go, Corona. We're running out of time.
Thank you, Anthony. Okay, thank you so much. All the best.
Have a great weekend. Thank you, everybody, for listening this week, and thanks to Dave Williams for being so patient with me. Patty will be back. Time for the news.